We continue with part 2, addressing the well-known issue of creation. In particular, we are trying to understand the positions of Satan, Rab Lord, and Adam in the context of human creation. However, since the first episode, where we introduced this methodology, we have also been applying a new strategy that presents our perspective from different angles. In this video, we will reduce this strategy to the most fundamental aspects of the creation narrative. For those encountering this video for the first time, those who are watching for the first time, I want to clarify something. The foundation of our videos, our main methodological approach, or the theory of the Quran and divine religions that we present is based on the existence of a galactic cosmic hierarchy. This galactic cosmic hierarchy consists of a vast system with incredible layers leading up to the creation of humans and our system. If you are encountering this series for the first time, I highly recommend watching the previous episode to better understand our core thinking strategy, the truths we have established, and the rationalized beliefs we propose. What are we going to do in this episode? In the first episode, we briefly touched on the issue of creation. While trying to determine the positions of different entities in creation, I want to conduct a thought experiment with you, similar to what Einstein often did. Einstein frequently conducted thought experiments in his time. Thought experiments do not require a laboratory setting. Instead, they involve structuring an event, narrating it, and deriving a philosophical design from the narrative. So, in this episode, I want to conduct a thought experiment with you. In the previous video, we discussed the creation of humans, the position of Rab, and the perspectives presented by both science and religious texts. On one hand, we have modern science, which presents a creation philosophy that supports evolution. On the other hand, we have the Anunnaki issue, which has become an undeniable topic, suggesting a genetic intervention in human development. Additionally, the Quran and other divine texts present their own intriguing creation narratives. Moreover, the Quran introduces a cosmic hierarchy, which is another crucial element in this discussion. There is a scientific pursuit known as the theory of everything, which attempts to unify all fundamental forces into a single framework. Scientists are trying to discover how everything converges into an ultimate singularity. I believe that the entire philosophy, strategy, and methodology described in the Quran, the ultimate mystery that needs to be unraveled, can be explained through a similar theory. I call this theory the Quran's theory of everything. For me, this theory is as follows. It establishes a mathematical model for the cosmic hierarchy, provides an incredible answer to atheistic critiques, and helps us understand the various dialogues, speakers, and linguistic styles used in the Quran. This theory, which I call the Quran's theory of everything, is essentially the cosmic hierarchy theory. Now, this might sound complex at first, but let me simplify it. Before us, we have an omnipotent, infinite creator, the one we refer to simply as He. Below him, there exists an Allah mechanism. Beneath this system, there is a Rab structure, which consists of millions of Rabs governing a galactic administration within a vast space-time system. However, since our topic for today focuses on the creation process across different disciplines, in this episode, we will conduct the thought experiment together. The thought experiment. Imagine that today we decide to create a robot. We already see examples of this, such as Sophia, the humanoid robot. How do we design a robot? We create it in our own image and likeness. No one says, let's place one of the robot's eyes on the right side and the other on the left, but put the mouth somewhere else and the lips in a completely different place. That is not how we design things. Because we ourselves are designed in a particular form, we also create our robots in our own image and resemblance. Just as we design robots with physical characteristics similar to our own, an even more intriguing question arises. Could we create new biological beings capable of independent thought? Now let's take this idea further. Let's say we have successfully created these robots. What if these robots were to create new robots? Most likely, they would create them in their own image and likeness because they have an established, well-functioning prototype that they do not wish to alter. Now, instead of progressing further in the cosmic hierarchy, let's take a step backward. What do we claim? Essentially, we are biological robots, though highly advanced ones, created through modeling and genetic intervention in a functional, biological laboratory environment by the RAB system and its team, who possess an advanced technological civilization in Sidratul Muntaha within the Sirius system. How could we have been created? Most likely, we were created in their own image and likeness. Indeed, when we examine sacred texts, such as the Old Testament and the New Testament, we see that Rab made the decision to create humans in his own image. Similarly, when we look at mythological connections, we find that the Anunnaki also attempted to create beings in their own likeness. Thus, the Quran and divine texts show similarities to Sumerian texts in this regard. However, where do they differ? From a scientific methodology perspective, there exists an evolutionary process, a process involving the transformation of species. However, when genetic intervention is introduced into this equation, it presents a new scientific dilemma. Yes, there is an ongoing creation mechanism, but there is a slight contradiction when viewed from a purely evolutionary standpoint. Yet, in later episodes, we will see just how many similarities emerge. Stepping further back in the cosmic hierarchy, when we go further back, we encounter the RAB system and its team from the Sirius system, who created humans in their own image and likeness. However, since our primary source is the Quran, when we examine the Quranic perspective on human creation, we encounter various terms, concepts, and anecdotes. For example, the Quran states that humans were created from tin, clay, turab, dust, and hamain masnun, aged mud, all highly peculiar terms. When viewed from an atheistic perspective, one might ask, how can a book with so many contradictions be divine? However, when examined through the lens of cosmic hierarchy, we realize that these apparent contradictions are, in fact, descriptions of how different levels of the hierarchy used various materials to create the human factor at different stages. Once we understand this, we can confidently say, we have solved the mystery, the supreme cosmic hierarchy. When we ascend to the highest point in the cosmic hierarchy, we see the Rahman system and Rab, Lord system, described as the Lord of space, time, and universes. Before diving deeper into the Allah system, we will first explore the next level of creation and then gradually work our way back. The core content of this series is to explore the forms created after the Supreme Allah and how these forms are reflected in the Quranic language and style. Rahman Surah, decoding the creation process. Let's analyze Surah Rahman 55, 1-3. Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. Allama al-Quran, taught the Quran. Khalaq al-Insan, created mankind. This methodology is critical. There exists a Rahman system. This Rahman system teaches the Quran. But what is the Quran? In this context, the Quran can be understood as the universal source code, the Law al-Mahfuz, preserved tablet, containing the fundamental open-source knowledge of the universe. It is similar to how Microsoft or Tesla might release their software or electric car codes as open source, making them available to the public. Thus, the Quran is an open source code that has been presented to all of humanity. Allama al-Quran, he taught the Quran, the first intelligent and conscious being. Then in verse 3 we read, Khalaq al-Insan, he created mankind. This means that the Rahman system, through its space-time cloning process, brought forth the first intelligent and conscious being, humans. We will now move forward, examining how different we systems, subordinate divine entities under the Allah system, created various human species, and how the Rab system eventually formed the first Bashar, biological human, on Earth. This is the methodology we follow, moving from the general to the specific, a top-down approach. Thus, when we examine Surah Rahman, it states, Khalaq al-Insan, he created mankind. This indicates that the first conscious and intelligent being in the entire space-time continuum was the human form. From here, we will analyze how other beings were created through the human form and transition into Surah al-Hijr, further exploring the Quranic account of creation. Our aim is to decipher the fine details, intricately woven passages, and complementary verses in the Quran, just as a treasure hunter carefully deciphers a hidden map. The cosmic order of creation in Surah Rahman. Now let's analyze the verses. In Surah Rahman, after the creation of humanity is explained, the creation of the heavens is discussed. Now I come to verse 14. You can read it too. Here, the issue of the human form is addressed. The Quran states that man, human being, was created. Why was this human form created? The Rahman system created the first galactic human, Bashar human being. There are different types of humans that have been formed in the universe through various processes. However, I am trying to explain the galactic human, the first intelligent and conscious prototype in its basic form. When this concept is fully understood, the cosmic hierarchy will become clear. Decoding the meaning of Salsal. In a previous section, we explained the meaning of Salsal. In Sumerian and Akkadian, the words Salal or Sul refer to a twisted or coiled structure, similar to how strands of thread are twisted together. This means that humans were created in a form that resembled a coiled structure, like the genetic helix in DNA. The prototype created by the Rahman system was created through genetic factors, but specifically through genetic factors that align with Kal-Fakkar. What is Kal-Fakkar? This interpretation, which is often translated as dry clay, is incorrect. The term Fakkar actually means proud, arrogant, boastful being. Rahman's system created the first galactic human prototype in its own image and form, endowing it with creative abilities and the ability to recognize the existence of a creator through comparison. Understanding through contrast and similarity. We can understand something in two ways. By contrast, we understand hot because we experience cold, or we understand light because we experience darkness. By similarity, something can be hot, hotter, and hottest, degrees of the same attribute. The first created human prototype was given the ability to recognize the existence of a creator through this principle of understanding. A more accurate translation. Therefore, the correct interpretation of this verse should be, I created a human from clay, proud and boastful. The phrase, the clay that boasted, does not make sense. Rahman's system created a human prototype that boasted, a prototype that recognized its own advanced genetic nature. To truly grasp the concept, we must analyze the deepest meanings of the words. Salsal refers to the helical, DNA-based genetic structure of the first galactic human prototype. Fakkar refers to the ability to be proud, to know oneself, and to possess divine creative abilities. The first prototype capable of high-level creation. This first human recognized his genetic superiority and was able to say, I am the most advanced human prototype. The creation of a second form, the jinn. After describing the human form, the very next verse in Surah Ar-Rahman 55:15 introduces a new form, the jinn. This means that the Rahman system first created a galactic human form. Then, the manipulation of this form led to the creation of a second form, the jinn. It is even possible that this jinn form was created through the intervention of the galactic human. How are the jinn defined? We will soon examine other verses that describe the creation of humans in different ways, just as we will see that the jinn are created using completely different terms. Does this mean that the Quran contradicts itself? The Quran does not contradict itself. Instead, it describes how different hierarchical systems within the cosmic order created both humans and jinn in various ways. Because we do not understand this cosmic system, we misperceive contradictions. Creation as a systemic process. The process of creating beings is no different from how we create robots today. When we build robots, we say, we created robots. Similarly, in the Quran, different systems use the term khalaqa, created. However, the term bedi, creation from absolute nothingness, is never used for these subsystems because such creation belongs only to the Almighty. Hierarchical creation of intelligence. Therefore, we continue to explore the subsystems of the Allah system and the cosmic hierarchy below the Almighty. What was the first intelligent form created? In the entire galactic system, an intelligent form was created. This form was called insan, human. The term salsal refers to DNA. This form has an advanced genetic structure. The Fakkar aspect emphasizes that this being is self-aware, conscious, and capable of building advanced civilizations. Therefore, the galactic humans would eventually begin their cloning activities. Now we move on to Surah Rahman 55:15 and examine the jinn. And he created the jinn from a smokeless, scorching fire. This is the conventional translation. However, since we will analyze it through scientific methodology and etymology, an entirely different picture will emerge before us. The etymology of jinn and jan. The word jinn originates from jan. In this verse, the phrase "he created Jan" appears. Some scholars have referred to this Jan as the father or ancestor of the jinn, which is partially correct. It describes the fundamental essence of the first created jinn form. When we delve into the root meanings of Jan, we uncover remarkable insights. Jan means something covered, hidden, much like how the night covers the day. It also signifies a shield or protective covering. Interestingly, Jan is etymologically related to Jannah, paradise. The words Jinn, Jan, and Jannah originate from the same root, the connection between Jannah and Jinn. In Surah Saba 34:15, the land of the people of Sheba is described as having two gardens, and the word Jannah is used. Thus, Jannah, paradise, is associated with hidden, unseen blessings, just as Jan means something concealed. This is why Jannah and Jinn share the same root. Both refer to things that are beyond normal human perception. The link between Jan and Senin, fetus. The word Jan is also related to Senin, fetus, which refers to the developmental stages of a baby in the womb. In Surah An-Najm 53:32, the term Jan is used in reference to the fetus, demonstrating how genetic manipulation and creation are linked to wombs. Furthermore, jinn and fetus share a common meaning. Both refer to something concealed. Both involve a developmental process. This implies that the formation of jinn has a genetic component, just as a fetus develops through biological programming. Jinn, trees, and lineage. The words jinn and jan also have meanings associated with trees, genealogy, and ancestry. This brings us to an even more intriguing point. Surah An-Naml 27:10, the staff of Moses. In this verse, when Moses encounters his Lord, he is told, "Throw your staff." When Moses sees the staff writhing like a snake, he turns and flees. But what is the Arabic word used for snake in this verse? Jan. Thus, this associates jinn with serpentine or reptilian characteristics, the reptilian race and Satan. Now we understand that the jinn race in paradise was linked to a serpent-like entity. This directly connects to the serpent in the Garden of Eden that deceived Adam and Eve. This realization sheds light on the origins of the reptilian race and its previous existence in paradise. Thus, from the very beginning, there was a cosmic struggle between the galactic human and the jinn race, as depicted in the Quran. This divergence reflects the opposing perspectives of two cosmic factions. Understanding Marij, the element of jinn creation. Surah Rahman 55:15 states, "And he created the jinn from Marij of Nar." What is Marij? Commonly translated as smokeless fire, but the meaning is far deeper. Marij means chaotic, unstable, inconsistent. The true nature of Marij is linked to neutrinos, ghost-like subatomic particles that remain a mystery to science today. The jinn were not created from conventional fire, but from a form of unstable energy, possibly antimatter or neutrinos. Understanding Na, the nature of jinn's essence. The word Na, fire, has two meanings in Arabic. 1. Nur, light. 2. Na, burning fire. However, Na also means a fire that spreads doubt, discord, and hostility. When analyzing the genetic nature of Iblis, we see that his lineage embodies this very characteristic, a being of doubt and rebellion. A comprehensive understanding of jinn and their creation. By examining these Quranic terms holistically, we uncover a cosmic hierarchy within creation. The arrogance and self-awareness of humans, linked to fakar, boasting pride. The genetic composition of jinn. derived from an unstable quantum-based element. Thus, the Rahman system establishes a structured cosmic order wherein both galactic humans and jinn exist in separate dimensions, shaped by their fundamental genetic makeup. This perspective provides a scientific and linguistic foundation for understanding the Quranic creation narrative beyond traditional interpretations. As we continue analyzing the next verses of Surah Rahman, we will uncover even more fascinating insights into the cosmic order and the ongoing struggle between these two beings. I'm moving on to verse 16. That is a repeated verse. He is the Lord of the two easts and the two wests. Two easts, two wests, because the realm of the jinn and the realm of humans are two parallel realms that exist side by side. The upcoming verses will support this. As I mentioned, I won't extend this explanation too much. So which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? This is a repeated verse. Then it says, He has released the two seas, meeting side by side. The word marij appears again here, meaning released fire. However, these are two systems, namely the human and jinn systems, which we often translate as two seas that do not mix. Yes, we can find places on Earth where this happens, but here a universal system is being described. Surah Ar-Rahman describes the universal galactic system. He released the two seas, nearly meeting, but they do not mix. Ar-Rahman 19, Ar-Rahman 20. Between them is a barrier so that they do not transgress. This means that there is also a difference in passage between the realms of jinn and humans. The neutrino aspect of this matter will be discussed later. Now, can this be referring to the same human beings? I am turning to Surah Al-Hijr, which is one of the places where the knots of this matter are untied. Now, Salsalin min Hamain Mesnoon. After the Rahman system, we see the production of new prototypes of the human and jinn factors, and these now call themselves the we system, because just as we, having created millions of robots and sent them to Venus, become their creators, in this system, given the vastness of the galactic structure, new cloning operations are being carried out, because we are talking about an advanced technology and civilization. Then it says, continuing from Surah Al-Hijr 26, and certainly we created man from sounding clay, from black mud altered. This is each of the we systems that came after the Rahman system. But how was it created in the Rahman system? What was the word used there? Let's look at the verse. For humans, the word insan kahar appears again. Salsal is mentioned, and it is created from fahar. But here, the we system's created prototype is different. What is it? Indeed, we created man from Hamain Mesnoon. What was Hamain Mesnoon? Mesnoon means modeled. Hamain means molded. Because just as we create robots similar to ourselves, why do we do so? Because we know ourselves. Now these we systems also have a prototype created before them, the Fahar human prototype. So when they create a new human species, they modify it slightly, because they cannot create Fahar directly. The system of creating Fahar belongs to the Rahman, the cosmic hierarchy of the Rahman. What can they create from? Salsal is still there. What was Salsal? Essentially, a genetic factor. They create with genetic factors, meaning with filaments. But Hamain Mesnoon. What was Hamain Mesnoon? It was modeled and molded, saying, we created man with the precision of a potter. This means that these creators, whom I refer to as creators in a literary sense, are engaged in a creative activity with their own hands. This is not to be understood in the sense of the infinite creator's badi, innovative design, which creates something from nothing. I kindly ask you to understand the term creator in the literary sense in which I am using it. And this human form they have created is not from Faha, but from Salsal, meaning it is from genetic factors, but modeled from Hamain Mesnun. Who created this? We. There is a plural expression, because after the creation of humans in the Rahman system, every newly created being includes itself in the we system. So, how were the jinn created? Now we come to Hijr 27. What does it say? And he had created the jinn before from scorching penetrating fire. Now let's go back to the verse in Surah Ar-Rahman and compare, because we must make this comparison for everything to become clear in our minds. What was the term used in Surah Ar-Rahman regarding the creation of the jinn? Marijin min nar, mariji and nar. But here, how does the we factor describe it? It says, we created the jinn before, from scorching, penetrating fire. This scorching fire is a step further in disorder compared to marij and nar, but now it has been placed within space-time. This means that there exists a realm within this space-time. In other words, among the beings we call aliens, some of them belong to the jinn race. Additionally, there are two different dimensions that do not mix. In these two separate dimensions, there exists a jinn realm and another structure where the human realm is situated. So what does the system that created beings within space-time say about the jinn? It says they were created from scorching fire. The term used here is samum. Now let me briefly explain this term. Do you know what samum is? It refers to a system that is passed through the smallest, narrowest of openings. And what does this remind us of? There is a verse in the Quran, Surah Al-A'raf 40, which says, "They will not enter paradise until a camel passes through the eye of a needle." Now the word hole used here is related to can, but also to samum, meaning these created jinn are beings that can travel interdimensionally, where, within the dimensions of space-time. It actually indicates that they are beings capable of traveling between dimensions within space-time, Einstein's theory, as described, by using Rosen bridges to make jumps in time. Because think about it, how can a camel pass through the eye of a needle? The Quran uses this metaphor, and it actually refers to traveling within a black hole. This is what samum means. Thus, we now understand that this galactic jinn form was created in this manner. Who created it? The we system created it. Now let's continue examining the verses, as they will reveal even more fascinating insights. We will continue with Surah Al-Hijr. Now, in verse 27, we saw the humans and jinn created by the we system. But now, in verse 28, something very interesting appears. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. And when your Lord said to the angels, who is this? This is the Lord system of the Sirius system. Keep in mind that when the Quran personalizes a narrative, it does not tell the story of an individual, such as Moses, in isolation. Instead, it tells the story of the Israelites, through Moses, as a personification. This is the style of the Quran. Now let's examine this Lord system. What does it say? The Lord gathered the angels and said, I am creating a bashar, mortal human, from Salsalin min Hamain Mesnun. This means that the being created by the Lord system is not even a human. When we look at the word used for creation by the Rahman system in the cosmic hierarchy, it refers to insan, human. When we look at the term used for the galactic human creation by the we system, it is also insan. However, when it comes to what the Lord will create on Earth, or rather in their own realm, on their own planet, it is referred to as bashar, mortal human, not insan. This distinction suggests that the human of Earth is bashar, whereas the human in the galactic system is a galactic human. Thus, we must separate these two forms from each other, as well as distinguish the different cosmic hierarchical systems that create these forms from different materials. This way, we can see that the Quran contains no contradictions. On the contrary, it establishes the entire theory of cosmic hierarchy. That is why the Lord in the Sirius system gathers the angels and says, "Indeed, I am creating a bashar from Salsalin min Hamain Mesnun." This means that everything is related to genetics, form, and resemblance. If there were no architectural blueprint in terms of form and resemblance, creating a new species from an existing design would be extremely difficult. This is why all creative processes in the galactic hierarchical system resemble each other, but the materials used in their creation differ. These differences are directly related to where these beings will exist in the galactic system and how they will adapt to their environment. Here, we see once again that the Bashar is created from Salsalin min Hamain Mesnun. The Lord system, meaning the ruler of the Sirius system, also creates the Bashar from Salsal within Hamain Mesnun, which refers to a replicable, patternable genetic structure. Now let's look at Surah Al-Hijr, verse 29. It says, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. When I have completed him, when I have perfected his creation and breathed into him. What is breath? In the old scriptures, it was referred to as ruh, meaning life, soul. At the same time, it signifies red blood, because for a bashar, mortal human to survive on Earth, it needs the red blood factor to adapt to this system of Earth. That is why it is specifically mentioned that I created him from red clay. So, after breathing into him, it says, fall down in prostration before him. All the angels, meaning the administrators of Melei Allah, the hierarchy under the Lord system, prostrate, accepting Adam's existence, recognizing the legal existence of the created Bashar. However, one does not prostrate, that is Iblis. It says, he was not among those who prostrated. He resisted, persisted, and refused. The matter of his resistance will be discussed in the next video. Why he resists, how he explains that he is genetically superior, and so on. Now, in the highest structure of the cosmic hierarchy, what do we see? A human prototype was created. This prototype, this part will be explained later, but one of the first places it would go is the Cygnus, Swan, constellation. The forms in the Cygnus constellation are human forms, whereas the Draco constellation belongs to the reptilian race, the race that was created from Jan. When the civilization of the Cygnus constellation arrived at the Draco constellation, they genetically manipulated them, meaning they transferred their own genes while also taking genes from them, thus creating new life forms. The origin of the issue and the reason for the debate over I am superior, you are superior between genetic lines is as follows. When they arrived, they transferred 50% of their genes to that constellation, and a race was created there. When a new race is formed, 50% of the genes come from one side and 50% from the other. However, since 50% of the genes of the Draco race had already passed over to the Cygnus race, a structure of 75% versus 25% emerged. This will be explained in detail later to fully understand the cosmic hierarchy. Therefore, each time a new species is created, the genes of the Cygnus constellation always hold a slightly larger share. That is, the human form genes always have a slight dominance over the Draco constellation's race. This is why we always see the conflict between these two bloodlines, the galactic struggle between them, and their war for dominance. When we look at the disputes between the Lord system and the Iblis system in Surah Sad, one of Satan's objections is this: "You created me from fire, and him from clay." But in reality, when Satan says, "You created me," he is not directly addressing the Lord system, because Iblis, genetically, originates from the Draco constellation, while the Lord system is tied to the Cygnus constellation. So, Satan's fundamental objection is, yes, this human side, this newly created Bashar, may have been created from clay, from Salsal, within Hamin Mesnun, but I am genetically superior to him, and I will prove it to you. This is the root of the conflict and its most intense point. Because what does the Lord say to Satan? Have you become arrogant? Have you become one of the high ones? Are you among those who boast? Are you of Fahar? Here we see that Satan's objection is based on the mechanism of creation. He claims superiority because he was created earlier. Then two time-related concepts emerge in the discussion. Satan says, "Grant me time until the day they are resurrected." And the Lord says, "I have granted you respite until the day of religion." This debate is not merely about the earth. It concerns the day of religion and the day of resurrection, Bath Day, when humanity will be brought back to life. Satan asking, "Can I continue this struggle until the moment after the final resurrection?" His statement means, "I will continue this war." Because the issue is not just his battle with humans. Satan's war with humanity will be won, but his battle with the Lord system will continue until the end. This matter also has its Anunnaki aspect, which has reflected upon Earth. In the next video, what will we do? We will analyze the Anunnaki aspect of this, the reasons behind Satan's objections, and the rationalized aspects of his beliefs, listing them point by point. This series will cover those aspects. Thus, all unresolved issues in the Quran or arguments raised against the Quran will be examined. We will also explore how the question of free will, if Allah knows everything, why did He create humans, is addressed. We will see how the Fahar human, created with free will, established a new system in space-time. This series will ground all these discussions in philosophy, science, and mythology, taking them to an entirely different level.